nighttime, daytime, nighttime, daytime, nighttime, daytime. Oh, this is a subject I have wanted to talk for or about for ages. This is light with kids. We're talking about controlling kids or attention getters. When we look at controlling kids in a classroom or a game time, light actually has a really big impact. So I've actually been running a bit of an experiment, a bit of a trial over the past probably about 4 months with kids. And so I want to share, we've obviously had Neon Night recently at Impact Kids, which was super exciting, and it was a great night. But obviously coming into that, I already had this in my mind: nighttime, daytime, light and darkness. Because, let me explain why, and then we'll have a look at what I made as a mistake on Neon Night and what worked, as I made 2 mistakes and I made 2 things that worked really well. And I want to share that as we look at controlling kids. Obviously, sometimes we don't have control of the lighting. Say, for example, this is kind of where it kind of came from, if you would. So when we were having kids, Impact Kids on Friday nights, the youth also meet on Friday nights. And obviously sometimes you can have the basketball court. Now the basketball court is enclosed, it's got fences all around, and it has a roof on top. But that roof is covered in lights. Now obviously there is 3 key points that actually has. Number 1, it has a surrounding. That fence, when you put kids in a confined space, it is easier to control them. Number 2, it has a roof, so it's easier to project your voice. And number 3, it has plenty of light. But when we're on the field, what it has a hedge, the car park, and the building, okay? So it still has some form of a boundary, if you would, but it's not the same as a fenced court where it's got lines that's marked, you're using cones, and so the line seems to be here, and then all of a sudden that line is like, oh, the kids seem to move the line, if you get what I mean. So when we have that, it's open space, it's harder to project your voice. So, but the key factor, light. It does not have the same level of light that the court does. And it is amazing the huge difference that actually affects the kids. So whether you're teaching a class, maybe obviously if you teach Sunday school, children's church, you probably don't have this issue because you're not teaching in the dark. But obviously sometimes you might have a story or a lesson that you use, an object lesson, or maybe God said let there be light, and so you have to make it dark and say God said let there be light, and so you have to cause that to happen. And so in doing that, you might see a difference in the kids, but it's normally really minute. Obviously Mr. Jabez was doing a object lesson quite a few months ago, and he was using mirrors and reflecting light, and it was about how God or Jesus reflects God, and when we get saved, we've never seen God or never seen Jesus, but we've seen the evidence, and how we then reflect Jesus' love to others. And it was a really cool object lesson. I loved it. The kids were into it, but the funny thing is, as soon as the lights went out, which obviously in this video, you probably don't see my face that much when this light's out, but there was more light in that room than there is now. And you know what? The kids were being noisy, they started talking, they started chatting, and it was so funny. As soon as the light came in, silence. The kids just started listening. And even though we could see the kids and we knew who was talking, it didn't matter. For them, as soon as it was darker, it was like, oh, I can talk, oh, I can talk. And so it was just like rain. You know how it rains and then kids go crazy? It's like one of those odd things that have like, why? How? But it is one of those funny things that happen. So if you are teaching and you don't have the ability to control light, maybe think of ways that can work around that. So obviously we were having Neon Night, which Neon Night, for it to work, you've got black light, which is a whole lot darker. And so you haven't got the amount of light that you normally have. And so we had that, and it was exciting. The kids were excited, and I was down to do games with one of the guys. And so I was thinking about this issue. How are we going to work this? Because for me, it was my first neon night. I'd not done neon night with kids before, and so this was, a new thing. And I was thinking, how am I going to do that when the kids aren't going to listen as good? They're not going to follow instructions as good, and it's going to be, game time is going to be a bit of a schmozzle. How are we going to do that? So I did two things that were big flops. Now I had good reasonings, but now looking back at it, I can go, oh, I could change that. But then I made two good things that did work, and I want to share that with you. But if you haven't followed us, maybe, hey, start following us. Maybe tick the bell or tick the like, and you can see more of these kind of videos as we talk about kids ministries. Now, obviously, when we talk about this, I'm going to look at the negatives first. So first of all, we were in the room, which was great. The guys did a tremendous job of decking that room out. But obviously with that room, it was same thing. They had the lights out and the kids were misbehaving beforehand. And then obviously when we went into song time and the lesson time, the lights were turned back on and the kids were like, oh, it was hilarious to see. But anyway, when we get out to the game time, I was thinking, okay, so a couple of things. My games are going to involve chairs, okay? But we have too many chairs in this room and we want to make that room empty because in checkout time, we're going to bring the kids back, play games, and it's going to have no space because it's much smaller than our normal room. So I was thinking, okay, so they can bring the chairs out for our first game. My big, oops, it's dark, trying to get kids in their right chairs in the right spot was a bit of a schmozzle. But I have to give the kids a lot of credit. They did really good considering it was hard to see instructions and hard to get in order. So it took us a while. Once we got there, the game went really well. Now, the other thing that I failed in was communicating with my leaders. Obviously, I normally like to communicate early on with my leaders and let them know what we're playing. And I've just gone, oh, we've played this before, so it will be fine. We've played it ages ago. I may have tweaked this one, but everybody would know this one, right? So I kind of fell into that and just gave a brief Thursday night text message out saying what we were doing, but I didn't do my whole like, hey, this is how we're going to play it. And so that was my fault. So obviously it was a little bit of less communication, but once we started to get the roll of it, it started working well. But then the transition. I stuffed up on the transition. Okay, I stuffed up on 3 things. I thought it was 2. But the transition from one game to another, because we had the chairs and I had a purpose for the chairs, which I'll explain next because that was one of my good ideas. But I told the kids to push the chair back. And I was just thinking, push it back a meter. But kids are literal, so what did they do? As far as I can go. So they pushed it back as far as I could go. We had chairs going everywhere, and I was like, oh no, kids, that's not what I meant. But at the same time, I'm cracking up because I would have done the exact same thing. So what we did is, obviously my transition was bad. Now looking back at it at hindsight, I would have done the games different. I would have started it with the game that didn't involve chairs and have leaders set the chairs up. So then the teams were already organized. That would be way clearer and it would have ran much smoother. But otherwise the kids did really good in the transition considering my stuff up. But here's what did work. I used the chairs for a purpose. So obviously we started fruit salad with chairs. I've changed it. We used to play fruit salad on the ground, but it was really rough and someone would always get hurt. So we've changed that game to being on chairs for safety reasons. Now obviously we went from that to another one to like a dog and bone game. But when you play dog and bone kind of game with like, we were playing like a human basketball version, mixed Euro handball kind of thing. And so it was a very different kind of a game, but the ball glowed and everybody glowed, and so it was really cool and effective. But what was going to happen is I use two key things. I use teams and points. Teams and points and chairs. So instead of having a line that they couldn't see that or a fence that they had to go back to where they mess around with their friends, they all had a chair to sit on and stay seated. So that kept that space flowing and it kept it good. They all knew they were going back to the chair. The second thing was the teams. And this is what makes things run so much smoother, is when you have teams and points. And you start that, quick. And so I was giving away points not just for winning the game, but first back on their chairs. So if you didn't win, you could still get points by getting back on your chair. So it was a game in itself, and it created the ability to flow quicker. And so obviously, when you don't have the ability to control the light, sometimes you have to think outside of the box and come up with ideas that work. Sometimes you might have an idea and it might not work, but that's okay. Next time, I know some new things when I start Neon Night on what I will do to change.